The grand celestial chamber glowed with soft blue light as hundreds of alien delegates gathered for the emergency session. Ambassador Kelthar moved quickly through the massive hall, his 6 legs clicking against the crystal floor. His insect-like body trembled with urgency. He had requested this meeting, and he knew he had very little time to prevent a disaster. The Zintharian Empire controlled over 200 star systems. They were powerful, ancient, and proud. Their scales shimmered like metal, and their warriors were legendary across the galaxy. For 3,000 years they had expanded without meeting any real resistance. Other species either joined them or disappeared. High Commander Zephyros stood at the center of the chamber. He was massive even for a Zintharian, with deep purple scales and cold yellow eyes. His voice boomed across the hall as he addressed the Eternal Council. Honored members, we have discovered another infestation in our territory. A species called humans has sent a colony ship into Sector 7. They ignored our warnings. They ignored our borders. We must make an example of them. Kelthar pushed forward through the crowd. His translator device crackled to life. High Commander, I must speak. This is a terrible mistake. Zephyros turned to look at the small insectoid ambassador. His mouth curved into what might have been a smile. Ambassador Kelthar, your concerns are noted, but this decision has already been made. Then unmake it, Kelthar said, his voice sharp. I have studied the humans for 30 of their years. I have walked among them. I have read their history. You do not understand what you are about to do. One of the council members, a floating gaseous being named Thyron, spoke in a voice like wind through caves. Ambassador, we have reviewed the data on these humans. They are weak. They have no natural armor. No claws, no venom. They live barely 100 years. They waste time on art and music and emotions. What threat could they possibly be? Kelthar's antennae quivered with frustration. He had known this would be difficult, but he had to try. Council members, please listen. Humans are not what they appear. Yes, they are physically weak compared to many species, but they have something far more dangerous than claws or armor. And what is that? Zephyros asked mockingly. Their feelings? Their poetry? Their memory, Kelthar said quietly, and their absolute refusal to give up. The chamber filled with clicking sounds and electronic buzzes. It was alien laughter. Kelthar felt his heart sink, but he pressed on. Let me tell you about human history. On their world, they were prey animals once. Weak, slow, with no natural weapons. But they survived by becoming persistence hunters. Do you know what that means? They would chase their prey for days. Days without stopping. The prey would run until its heart burst from exhaustion. Humans would just keep walking. Always behind. Always coming. Never stopping. Fascinating, Zephyros said with obvious boredom. But we are not animals running on a dirt planet. We have ships. We have weapons. We have an empire. You are not listening, Kelthar said desperately. This trait is still in them. They applied it to everything. When they wanted to fly, they failed thousands of times. They kept trying. When they fought wars among themselves, they would fight for years, decades, even centuries. They never forgot. They never forgave. And they never ever stopped coming. Another council member spoke, a reptilian creature named Voss. Ambassador, surely you exaggerate. We have seen their ships. They are small. Their weapons are primitive. They have only recently achieved faster-than-light travel. They are children playing with toys. Kelthar wanted to scream, but he kept his voice level. Yes, their technology is behind ours for now. But humans learn faster than any species I have encountered. They study their enemies. They adapt. They improve. Give them one battle and they will learn everything about you. Give them 2 battles and they will know how to kill you. Then we will not give them 2 battles, Zephyros said firmly. We will destroy their colony ship completely. No survivors. No one to tell the tale. The other humans will never know what happened. They will think their ship was lost to some natural disaster. You fool, Kelthar said, forgetting protocol. You absolute fool. Do you think they will not investigate? Do you think they will not search? Humans have a saying, no one left behind. They will look for that ship. They will find evidence, and when they do, when they discover you murdered 12,000 civilians, you will face something you cannot imagine. Zephyros stepped closer to Kelthar, towering over him. And what is that, little ambassador? What could these weak, short-lived creatures possibly do to the Zintharian Empire? Kelthar looked up at the High Commander. His voice was barely a whisper, but every being in the chamber heard it. They will come for you. All of you. They will not stop. They will not tire. They will not negotiate. They will hunt down every ship, every commander, every soldier involved in this attack. It might take them years. It might take them decades. But they will come. And when they arrive, you will beg for mercy, and they will remember that you gave none. The chamber was silent for a moment. Then Zephyros laughed, a deep booming sound. I am almost disappointed, Ambassador. I expected better from you. These humans sound like perfect targets for our young warriors to practice on. The council began to vote. One by one, the members gave their approval. Kael'thar watched in horror as the decision was made final. The attack on the human colony ship would proceed. As the council dismissed, Kael'thar tried one last time. He approached Zephyros directly. Commander, please. I am begging you. I have never begged anyone for anything in my life. But I am begging you now. Do not do this. Send them away. Escort them out of your territory. Give them a warning. But do not attack them. Zephyros looked down at the small insectoid. For just a moment, something like curiosity flickered in his yellow eyes. Why do you care so much about these humans, Ambassador? What are they to you? Kael'thar thought about the humans he had met during his time on Earth. He remembered their kindness, their humor, their endless curiosity. He remembered human children laughing. He remembered human parents holding their young. He remembered the fierce love they showed for their families and friends. Because I have seen what they are capable of when they love, Kael'thar said softly, and I do not want to see what they become when they hate. Zephyros turned away. Your warning is noted and dismissed. The attack will happen in 3 days. Perhaps you should send a message to these humans. Tell them to teach their people to respect Zintharian borders. As the High Commander walked away, Kael'thar stood alone in the emptying chamber. He had failed. The colony ship called New Horizon had 12,000 humans aboard. Families, children, scientists, farmers. People looking for a new home among the stars. They would all die in 3 days. And then, Kael'thar knew with absolute certainty, the real tragedy would begin. The Zintharian Empire had just made the worst decision in its 3,000-year history. They had decided to poke the sleeping predator. Kael'thar left the chamber and went directly to his private communication station. He had to try to warn the humans. He had to try to save both sides from the horror that was coming. But deep down he knew it was already too late. The countdown had begun. Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, watching the stars drift by on the main screen. She was tired but happy. 3 years into their journey, and the colony ship was running perfectly. Behind her, the night shift crew worked quietly at their stations. Somewhere in the massive ship, 12,000 people slept peacefully in their quarters, dreaming of the new world they would build together. The communications officer, a young man named David Chen, suddenly sat up straight. Captain, I'm picking up multiple contacts. They just appeared on sensors. Maria moved to his station quickly. How many? 20 ships. No, 30. They're big, Captain. Much bigger than us. David's hands moved across his controls. There's Zintharian. Military configuration. Maria felt ice form in her stomach. The Zintharian Empire. They had been warned to avoid Zintharian space, but their navigation data showed they were in unclaimed territory. Had there been a mistake? Open a channel, Maria ordered. All frequencies, David nodded. Channel open, Captain. Zintharian vessels, this is Captain Maria Santos of the Earth colony ship New Horizon. We are a civilian vessel on a peaceful colonization mission. If we have entered your territory by mistake, we apologize. Please send us the correct coordinates and we will change course immediately. Silence. The Zintharian ships moved closer, forming a perfect sphere around the New Horizon. Maria could see them clearly now on the screen. They were beautiful in a deadly way, all smooth curves and gleaming metal. Captain, said Lieutenant Park from the tactical station, they're charging weapons. What? Maria's voice cracked. That's impossible. We're civilians. David, send the message again. Make it clear we have children aboard. Families. David sent the message, his voice shaking as he repeated their peaceful intentions. Still, there was no response from the Zintharian fleet. Then, finally, a voice came through the speakers. It was deep and cold, translated from Zintharian into English by the computer. Human vessel. You have violated Zintharian space. This is your punishment. This is your lesson. Wait, Maria shouted. We can leave. We can turn around. Please, we have children on this ship. We have families. We mean no harm. No one violates our borders, the voice said. Let this be a message to your kind. The first energy beam hit the New Horizons forward section. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. Maria grabbed her chair as the vessel shook violently. Shields failing, Park yelled. Hull breach on decks 7 through 12. Launch all escape pods, Maria commanded. Emergency evacuation. Get everyone off the ship now. The crew moved with trained efficiency despite their terror. Throughout the New Horizon, 12,000 people woke to the sound of alarms. Parents grabbed children. Families ran hand in hand to the nearest escape pods. The crew members helped the elderly and disabled, carrying them when necessary. But the Xantharian fleet did not stop firing. They methodically destroyed the New Horizons section by section. Escape pods launched into space, small white spheres against the black void. The Xantharian ships targeted them as well, destroying pod after pod with precise weapons fire. Maria stayed on the bridge, coordinating the evacuation even as the ship died around her. She watched the screens showing the carnage and felt something break inside her soul. These were her people, her responsibility, and she could do nothing to save them. Captain, David said, tears streaming down his face. The engine core is failing. We have 2 minutes before it explodes. Maria looked at her crew. 5 people remained on the bridge with her. Get to the last escape pod. That's an order. Captain, you need to come too, Lieutenant Park said. Someone needs to broadcast what happened here. The recorder is still running. Go. Tell Earth what they did to us. Her crew hesitated for only a moment before running for the escape pod. Maria sat in her captain's chair and activated the ship's black box recorder. She spoke clearly, describing everything that had happened. She listed the names of her crew, her passengers, as many as she could remember. She wanted Earth to know who had died here. This is Captain Maria Santos. We were attacked without provocation. We tried to surrender. We had children aboard. The Xantharians did not care. They murdered us, all of us. Someone must answer for this crime. Someone must pay for what happened to my people. The explosion was bright and brief. The New Horizon became a cloud of debris and frozen bodies scattered across space. Of the 400 escape pods that launched, only 17 survived. They drifted in space, their emergency beacons calling into the darkness. 3 days later, a human merchant ship called the Lucky Star picked them up. 412 survivors. That was all that remained of 12,000 souls. The news reached Earth on a Tuesday morning. The president was in a meeting when his chief of staff burst in, face pale. The recording from the New Horizon was played for the cabinet. They watched in silence as Captain Santos described the attack. They heard her voice shake as she talked about the children. They saw the readouts showing the Xantharian ships destroying escape pods. When the recording ended, the president stood slowly. Get me Admiral Thorne. Get me the Defense Council. Get me every fleet commander we have. Do it now. Admiral James Thorne was a quiet man who had served in the Earth Defense Force for 40 years. He had fought in the border wars. He had negotiated peace treaties. He had always believed in finding diplomatic solutions to problems. But as he watched the recording from the New Horizon, something changed in his eyes. The United Earth Assembly gathered in emergency session. Representatives from every nation sat in the Great Hall. The recording was played again. Many representatives wept openly. Others sat in stunned silence. A few looked ready to commit violence themselves. Admiral Thorne stood before them, his uniform crisp, his face carved from stone. Members of the Assembly, we have been attacked. Civilians, non-combatants, families, children. The Xantharian Empire has committed an act of war against humanity. They wanted to send us a message. I propose we send one back. The vote was unanimous. Every nation, every representative, every single vote in favor of war. Within hours, every shipyard in human space began working around the clock. Factories that made civilian goods switched to military production. Volunteers lined up at recruitment centers by the millions. Scientists who had spent their lives studying stars and planets now turned their knowledge to weapons and tactics. Ambassador Kael'thar watched the news feeds from Earth with growing horror. He had tried to contact the human government, tried to explain that he had warned the Xantharians, tried to offer to mediate. The response from Earth was brief and final. Justice will be served. Stay out of our way. The Xantharians, meanwhile, celebrated their victory. High Commander Zephyros gave speeches about how easily the human vessel had been destroyed. The Eternal Council congratulated themselves on sending a clear message to any species that might challenge their borders. They did not understand what they had done. They did not understand that they had awakened something ancient and terrible. They had triggered the protective instincts of a species that had evolved by never giving up, never stopping, never forgetting. 6 months after the destruction of the New Horizon, the first human fleet left Earth. Admiral Thorne stood on the bridge of the flagship Retribution, watching his homeworld shrink behind them. The fleet numbered over 200 ships. It was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled, but it was just the beginning. Behind them, more ships were being built. More weapons were being developed. More soldiers were being trained. Humanity had shifted into total war mode, and they would not stop until justice was served. Thorne looked at the picture he kept on his desk. It showed Captain Maria Santos smiling at a promotion ceremony 5 years ago. He had known her. She had been a good officer and a better person. "We're coming for you, Zephyros," Thorne said quietly to the stars ahead. "We're coming for all of you, and we will never stop." The first battle happened at the edge of Zintharian space, near a mining station called Outpost Gamma. Admiral Thorne brought his fleet out of faster-than-light travel and immediately faced a Zintharian defensive force of 50 warships. The Zintharian commander, a warrior named Corvus, had been expecting the humans. High Commander Zephyros had warned all border stations to watch for them. Corvus was not worried. His ships were larger, faster, and better armed than the human vessels. This would be over quickly. He was right about it being quick, but wrong about everything else. The human fleet attacked with a ferocity that shocked the Zintharians. They did not use careful tactics or elegant formations. They simply charged forward, taking hits, losing ships, but never slowing down. Human vessels rammed Zintharian ships when their weapons failed. Damaged human ships did not retreat. They kept fighting until they exploded. Corvus watched in disbelief as a human destroyer, its hull torn open and venting atmosphere, crashed directly into his flagship. The impact killed the human crew instantly, but also crippled the Zintharian ship. More human vessels swarmed around the damaged flagship, firing everything they had. When the battle ended 3 hours later, the Zintharian defensive force was destroyed, but the cost had been terrible. Thorne had lost 70 ships out of his 200. More than half his fleet was damaged. By any standard military calculation, this was a defeat for humanity, but Thorne did not retreat. Instead, he immediately attacked the mining station itself. The humans boarded it with soldiers in armored suits fighting through every corridor, every room. The Zintharian defenders were skilled warriors, but they had never faced anything like human soldiers. Lieutenant Chen Wei led one of the boarding teams. Her squad moved through the station like shadows, using tactics that seemed almost insane to the Zintharians. They set traps. They used the station's own systems against the defenders. When cornered, they fought with knives and bare hands rather than surrender. Chen Wei's squad captured a Zintharian command post after a brutal 6-hour fight. She found herself face-to-face with a wounded Zintharian officer, his purple scales stained with blood. He looked at her with yellow eyes full of confusion. "Why do you keep coming?" he asked in broken English. "We killed so many of your ships." "You should retreat. You should regroup." Chen Wei's face was hard behind her helmet visor. "You killed 12,000 of our civilians. Men, women, and children. We will never stop coming. Never." The mining station fell within a day. Thorne immediately sent all his data back to Earth. Every weapon the Zintharians had used, every tactic, every weakness his people had discovered. Human scientists and military strategists studied the information carefully. The second battle happened 3 months later. This time the human fleet was ready. They had modified their shields based on Zintharian weapon frequencies. They had developed new missiles specifically designed to penetrate Zintharian armor, and they had twice as many ships. High Commander Zephyros began to realize he had made a mistake. The humans were not retreating. They were not asking for peace. They were getting stronger with every battle. He sent his best fleets to push the humans back, but it did not work. The humans learned from every engagement. After each battle, they adapted. They improved. They became more efficient at killing Zintharians. What took them 3 hours in the first battle took them 1 hour in the 5th battle, and they never stopped coming. Ambassador Kael'thar tried desperately to arrange peace talks. He contacted the human government repeatedly. Finally, he got a response. He was given permission to meet with Admiral Thorn aboard the Retribution. The human flagship was nothing like Syntherian ships. It was functional, efficient, and covered in weapons. Kael'thar walked through corridors that felt cold and industrial. Human crew members passed him, their faces showing no emotion, just determination. Admiral Thorn met him in a small conference room. The human was older than Kael'thar had expected, with gray hair and tired eyes. But those eyes were also hard as stone. Ambassador Kael'thar, Thorn said, not offering a greeting gesture. You have 5 minutes. Admiral, please, Kael'thar said quickly. This war must end. Both sides are suffering terrible losses. The Syntherian Council is willing to negotiate. They will pay reparations. They will apologize. Please, just stop the attacks. Thorn stared at him for a long moment. Did they apologize before they murdered 12,000 civilians? Did they offer reparations before they destroyed escape pods full of children? No, Kael'thar admitted. What they did was wrong, evil. I tried to warn them. I tried to stop them. But this war will destroy both our peoples. We don't care about the cost, Thorn said simply. We care about justice. Justice or revenge? Kael'thar asked. Is there a difference? Thorn pulled up a holographic display. It showed pictures of the New Horizons passengers. Families smiling, children playing. These people trusted us to protect them. We failed. Now we will make sure this never happens again to any human anywhere in the galaxy. The Council will surrender High Commander Zephyros, Kael'thar said desperately. They will give him to you for trial. Just stop the attacks. No, Thorn said. It is not enough to punish one commander. The entire Empire made the decision. The entire Empire celebrated the massacre. They all share the guilt. We will continue until the Syntherian Empire understands the cost of murdering human civilians. Kael'thar felt his hope dying. You are willing to sacrifice millions of your own people to punish the Syntherians? We are willing to sacrifice everything, Thorn said quietly. Because if we do not make this stand, if we do not show the galaxy what happens when you attack humans, then this will happen again. And again, and again. We would rather die fighting than live in a galaxy where our children can be murdered without consequence. The meeting ended. Kael'thar returned to his ship feeling defeated. He had seen the truth in Admiral Thorn's eyes. The humans would not stop. They could not stop. Their nature would not allow it. Meanwhile, the war continued. Human Special Forces teams began operations deep in Syntherian territory. They sabotaged supply lines. They destroyed fuel depots. They assassinated military commanders. The Syntherians had never experienced this kind of warfare. It was dishonorable, they said. It was cowardly, but it was effective. Lieutenant Chen Wei led a team that infiltrated a Syntherian military academy. They did not kill anyone. Instead, they left a message written on the wall of the main hall. We can reach you anywhere. Surrender Zephyros. The psychological impact was devastating. Syntherian warriors began to fear the humans. Stories spread of human soldiers who kept fighting even when mortally wounded. Tales of human ships that refused to die, that kept shooting even as they burned. Legends of humans who tracked their enemies across entire star systems. The Syntherian Empire began calling for allies to help them. But other species refused. They remembered Ambassador Kael'thar's warnings. They saw how the humans fought, and they wanted no part of it. 1 year after the destruction of the New Horizon, the human fleet reached the inner territories of the Syntherian Empire. They had fought through 18 battle groups. They had captured or destroyed over 300 Syntherian ships, and they had lost over 400 of their own vessels. But behind them, even more human ships were coming. The war machine that humanity had built showed no signs of stopping. Every month, new fleets left Earth. Every month, human forces grew stronger. High Commander Zephyros stood in his command center, looking at tactical displays that showed nothing but bad news. The humans were everywhere. They were relentless. They were unstoppable. For the first time in his long life, Zephyros felt real fear. He finally understood what Ambassador Kael'thar had tried to warn him about. The humans were not conquerors seeking territory. They were not warriors seeking glory. They were something far more dangerous. They were parents who had lost their children, and they would never forgive. They would never forget. They would never stop coming. 2 years had passed since the destruction of the New Horizon. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as the war between humans and Xantharians continued. Most species had expected the conflict to end quickly. Wars in the galaxy usually lasted a few months at most. One side would win or both sides would agree to negotiate, but the humans did not negotiate. They did not slow down. They did not seem to tire. Admiral Thorne stood on the bridge of the Retribution, studying the tactical map of Xantharian space. Red markers showed human fleet positions. Blue markers showed Xantharian forces. The map was mostly red now. Human fleets controlled dozens of Xantharian systems. Supply routes had been cut. Colonies had been isolated. The great Xantharian Empire was crumbling. "Admiral," said Commander Lisa Park, who had been promoted after surviving the first battle, "intelligence reports that 3 more Xantharian allies have withdrawn their support. They're refusing to send reinforcements." Thorne nodded. He had expected this. Other species were smart enough to recognize a losing fight when they saw one. The Xantharians had thought they were teaching humanity a lesson. Instead, they had given the galaxy a very different lesson about what happened when you attacked humans. On Earth, the war effort had transformed society. Factories ran 24 hours a day. Children studied engineering and military tactics in school. Artists created propaganda posters showing the victims of the New Horizon. Every human alive knew someone serving in the war. The entire species had united with a single purpose. Ambassador Kael'thar addressed the Galactic Assembly, trying once again to broker peace. The Great Hall was filled with representatives from hundreds of species. They all watched the recordings he presented. Recordings of human fleets, recordings of human soldiers, recordings of Xantharian ships being systematically destroyed. "Honored delegates," Kael'thar said, his voice weary, "I come before you to discuss the human question. 2 years ago I warned the Xantharian Council about attacking these beings. They did not listen. Now we are all witnessing the consequences." A delegate from the Thraxian Collective, a species of floating jellyfish-like creatures, spoke up. "Ambassador Kael'thar, surely the humans must be running out of resources. Their economy must be collapsing." "War is expensive." "Their economy is not collapsing," Kael'thar replied. "It is thriving. Humans have converted their entire civilization to support this war. They are not fighting with a military force. They are fighting with their entire species. Every human is contributing. They mine asteroids for resources. They build ships in orbital factories. They have turned their solar system into a war machine." Another delegate, a crystalline being named Zix, asked the question many were thinking. "But why?" "The Xantharians have offered to surrender High Commander Zephyros. They have offered reparations." "Why do the humans continue?" Kael'thar's antennae drooped with sadness. "Because humans do not forget. Their history is filled with stories of grudges held for centuries. They have a saying, 'Forgive, but never forget.' In this case, I do not think they are interested in forgiveness at all. They want every species in the galaxy to understand that attacking human civilians has consequences that never end." He pulled up historical records from Earth. "Let me show you their nature. In their ancient past, humans hunted animals called mammoths. These creatures were massive, powerful, dangerous. A single mammoth could kill many humans, but humans would track them for days, weeks even. They would follow the herd across entire continents. They would attack, fall back, attack again. They would chase until the mammoth was exhausted. Then they would kill it." The assembly watched footage of human persistence hunting, a group of human hunters jogging after prey across vast grasslands. Not running, just jogging. Hour after hour, the prey would sprint away, then stop to rest. The humans would keep jogging. The prey would run again. The humans would follow. Eventually, the prey's heart would give out from exhaustion. The humans would still be coming. They became persistence predators, Kael'thar continued, and they applied this trait to everything they did. When they decided to reach their moon, it took them 8 years. When they decided to map their own genome, it took them 13 years. When they wage war, they do not stop until they achieve their objective. What is their objective? Zix asked. "Justice," Kael'thar said simply. "They want High Commander Zephyros. They want every officer who participated in the attack. They want every ship captain. They want every soldier. They have created a list, a very long list, and they are working through it methodically." This was true. Human intelligence services had spent 2 years gathering information. They knew the name of every Xantharian involved in the New Horizon massacre. They knew where each one served. They knew their families, their homes, their habits. The humans were hunting them one by one. Captain Chen Wei, now promoted to Major, led special operations deep in Xantharian territory. Her teams had captured 17 Xantharian officers from the list. Each one was taken alive, transported to a human prison ship, and held for eventual trial. The message was clear. Humanity would have its justice. The Xantharian military was falling apart. Soldiers deserted. Officers refused orders to fight human forces. Some Xantharian colonies attempted to surrender directly to human commanders, hoping for mercy. High Commander Zephyros sat in his personal quarters aboard his flagship, drinking fermented algae wine and staring at reports. His empire was dying. His species faced potential extinction, and it was all his fault. He had received another message from the human fleet. They sent him one every week. This week's message included a list of names, Xantharian names, every officer who had served under him at the New Horizon massacre. Next to each name was a status: captured, deceased in battle, or still at large. The list was getting shorter. Zephyros knew what the humans were doing. They were showing him that they could reach anyone, that there was nowhere to hide, that eventually they would come for him too. He had tried to understand these creatures. He had studied their history, their culture, their psychology. What he found terrified him. Humans were capable of incredible kindness and mercy. They had stories of forgiveness and redemption, but they also had stories of revenge that lasted generations. They had fought wars that killed millions over insults to their honor. The Xantharian Empress, ruler of the Empire, finally contacted Admiral Thorn directly. The communication was routed through multiple intermediaries, but eventually, the two leaders spoke face-to-face via hologram. Empress Vira was old by Xantharian standards. Her scales faded to light gray. She looked tired. "Admiral Thorn, I come to you not as an empress, but as a mother. Please, this war must end. We are willing to give you everything you ask. Reparations, territory, technology. Just stop the killing." Thorn looked at her without expression. "You will surrender High Commander Zephyros and every officer on our list for trial under human law." "Yes," Vira said immediately. "You will allow human inspectors full access to all military facilities to ensure compliance. Yes, you will pay reparations to the families of every victim of the New Horizon. Yes, anything. Just stop." Thorn leaned forward. "Your Majesty, why did you wait 2 years? Why did you allow this war to continue, when you could have ended it at any time by simply handing over the criminals?" Vira's expression cracked. "Pride, foolish pride. We thought you would tire. We thought you would run out of resources. We thought you would accept a negotiated settlement. We did not understand that you would sacrifice so much for revenge." "Not revenge," Thorn corrected her. "Justice. And to send a message to every species in the galaxy. If you attack human civilians, if you murder our children, we will never stop coming for you, never. It does not matter how powerful you are. It does not matter how far you run. We will chase you to the end of the galaxy and beyond. That is the message." Vira's eyes showed something humans rarely saw in other species: genuine remorse. "I understand now. Ambassador Kelthar tried to warn us. We should have listened." "Yes," Thorn said. "You should have. The terms were agreed upon. The Xantharian Empire would surrender High Commander Zephyros and 73 other officers. They would pay reparations. They would allow human monitoring stations throughout their territory, and they would never again threaten human lives. But before the final agreement could be signed, there was one more thing that needed to happen. The human fleet needed to reach the Xantharian homeworld. They needed to show that they could have destroyed it if they had chosen to. They needed to prove that mercy was a choice, not a weakness. Admiral Thorn gave the order. The human fleet jumped to Xanth Prime, the heart of the Empire. Hundreds of human warships appeared in orbit around the beautiful blue and green world. The planet where billions of Xantharians lived. The planet that could be turned to ash with a single command. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what humanity would do. The human fleet hung in orbit above Xanth Prime like a sword suspended over the heart of the Empire. Admiral Thorn stood on the bridge of the Retribution, looking down at the beautiful world below. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. It reminded him of Earth. "Admiral," Commander Park said quietly, All ships are in position. We have target locks on military installations, government centers, and shield generators. On your command, we could devastate the planet's defenses within an hour. Thorn nodded slowly. He could give the order right now. He could avenge the New Horizon with fire and fury. The families of the 12,000 victims wanted blood. Earth wanted revenge. It would be so easy to simply say the word, but he did not. Maintain position, Thorn said. Weapons stay cold. No one fires unless I give explicit authorization. Park looked relieved. Yes, sir. Below on Zinth Prime, billions of Zintharians looked up at the sky with fear. They saw the human ships. They knew what those ships could do. They had watched the recordings of human fleets destroying their military. They understood that their lives hung by a thread. Empress Vira sat in her throne room surrounded by her advisors. The room was ancient, built 3,000 years ago when the Empire was young. Now it might become a tomb. She had ordered all military forces to stand down. She had ordered the shields to remain inactive. If the humans wanted to destroy her world, she would not resist. It would only make things worse. Your Majesty, said her chief advisor, we should evacuate you to the underground bunkers. If the humans attack, we all die together, Vira interrupted. No, I will stay here. I will face what comes. A communication came through from the human flagship. Empress Vira accepted it, and Admiral Thorn's hologram appeared before her throne. Your Majesty, Thorn said, his voice formal but not hostile, I am here to accept your surrender. You have it, Vira said simply. What are your demands? High Commander Zephyros and the 73 officers on our list will be transferred to human custody within the next 24 hours. They will be taken to a neutral station where they will stand trial. The trial will be public. It will be fair. But it will also be thorough. If they are found guilty, they will be punished according to human law. Agreed, Vira said. What else? Your military will be reduced to defensive forces only. You will not project power beyond your current borders. Human monitors will be stationed at key locations throughout your territory to ensure compliance. You will pay reparations to the families of the victims. The amount will be determined by an independent committee. Vira listened to each demand. They were harsh but not impossible. The Empire would survive, though it would be diminished. I agree to all terms. Thorn paused, then said something that surprised her. Your Majesty, I want you to understand something. We did not come here to conquer you. We did not come here to destroy your people. We came here to ensure that what happened to the New Horizon never happens again. To any human anywhere. I understand, Vira said quietly. And I am deeply sorry for what was done. I cannot undo the past, but I can promise that the Zintharian Empire will never threaten humanity again. See that you keep that promise, Thorn said. The hologram disappeared. Over the next day, High Commander Zephyros and the other officers were transferred to human custody. Zephyros went quietly, knowing that resistance was pointless. He was placed aboard a transport ship and taken to the neutral station that had been chosen for the trial. The trial lasted 6 weeks. It was broadcast across the entire galaxy. Hundreds of species watched as humans presented their evidence, the recordings from the New Horizon, the testimonies of survivors, the communications showing that the Zintharians had ignored all attempts to surrender. Zephyros sat in the defendant's chair, his scales dull with shame. He had no defense. He had followed orders, but that was not an excuse. He had made the choice to destroy escape pods full of children. He had celebrated the massacre afterwards. The human prosecutor was a woman named Sarah Chen, the sister of Lieutenant Chen Wei. She spoke with controlled passion as she detailed each crime. She showed pictures of the victims. She read their names aloud, all 12,000 of them. It took 4 hours just to read the names. When it came time for Zephyros to speak, he stood and addressed the court. I have no defense. What I did was wrong. It was evil. I believed I was serving my empire, but I was only serving my own pride. If I could undo what happened, I would, but I cannot. I can only face the consequences of my actions. Ambassador Kelthar attended the trial as an observer. He watched as the human judges deliberated. He had expected them to be harsh, vengeful, but instead they were careful and methodical. They considered every piece of evidence. They discussed the law. They ensured that Zephyros received a fair trial. The verdict was guilty on all counts. The sentence was life imprisonment without possibility of parole. Zephyros would spend the rest of his life in a human prison facility. He would not be executed despite the horrific nature of his crimes. This surprised many species. The Galactic Assembly discussed it at length. Why had the humans shown mercy at the end? Empress Vira asked Admiral Thorne this question directly when they met to sign the final peace treaty. They sat across from each other in a neutral conference room. Human and Xantharian advisors stood along the walls. "Admiral," Vira said, "you could have destroyed my world. You could have executed Zephyros and the others. You had the power and the justification. Why did you show restraint?" Thorne thought for a moment before answering. "Your Majesty, humans are capable of great violence. We can be brutal and relentless, but we are not monsters. We fight fiercely to protect what we love, and we pursue justice without mercy. But once justice is served, once the threat is eliminated, we can show restraint." He gestured to the treaty between them. "We did not want to conquer you. We wanted to make sure you understood the cost of attacking human civilians. I believe that lesson has been learned." "It has," Vira said firmly. "Every Xantharian child will grow up learning about this war, about our mistake, about the price we paid. We will never forget." "Good," Thorne said. "Neither will we." The treaty was signed. The war officially ended 2 years, 4 months, and 17 days after the destruction of the New Horizon. Human fleets began the long journey home. Prisoners of war were exchanged. The wounded were treated. Ambassador Kael'thar addressed the Galactic Assembly one final time about the war. He stood before the gathered species and spoke with the weight of someone who had witnessed history. "Honored delegates, we have learned something important about humanity. They are not the strongest species. They are not the fastest or the smartest. Their technology is not the most advanced, but they have something that makes them incredibly dangerous." He paused, letting the silence build. "They never forget. They never give up. They will chase you across the galaxy if you harm their people, but they also understand mercy. They could have destroyed the Xantharian Empire completely. They had the power. They had the justification, but they chose restraint." Kael'thar looked around the assembly hall. "Humanity has shown us that the most dangerous predator is not the one with the sharpest claws. It is the one that never stops coming, never forgets a wrong but still knows mercy when the hunt is over. Let us all learn from the Xantharian mistake. Do not attack humans. Do not harm their civilians. Do not test their patience. Because if you do, you will face something unstoppable." On Earth, a memorial was built for the victims of the New Horizon. It stood in Geneva, where the United Earth government made its home. 12,000 names were carved into black marble. At the center was a statue of Captain Maria Santos standing tall looking toward the stars. The inscription at the base read, "We will always remember. We will always come for you. We will always protect our own." Admiral Thorne attended the memorial's dedication. He was old now, worn down by years of war, but he stood straight as he spoke to the assembled crowd. "Today we remember those we lost. We remember their courage, their dreams, their love. We remember that they died simply because they wanted to build a new home among the stars. We remember that they were murdered without mercy, without reason, without justice." He paused, his voice growing stronger. "But we also remember that we answered their deaths. We made sure the galaxy understood that human lives have value, that attacking us has consequences, that we will never abandon our people. This memorial stands as a promise that we will always remember. We will always protect our own, and we will never ever stop coming." The crowd was silent. Then, one by one, they began to place flowers at the base of the memorial. Thousands of people came that day. Each one left something: a flower, a picture, a letter. Tokens of remembrance for those who had died. And across the galaxy, other species looked at the memorial through their broadcasts and understood. They understood that humanity was not to be trifled with. They understood that humans protected their own with a ferocity that was almost incomprehensible. They understood that the best way to deal with humans was simple: treat them with respect and they would be peaceful neighbors. Attack them and face something that would never stop, never tire, and never forget. The war was over. Justice had been served. But the lesson would echo through the galaxy for generations to come.